Hey everybody, Jason Burmis here, and we've got a very important show for a number of reasons today. Steve from Slow News Day is joining us, not because anything great has happened, not because anything happy has happened, but because we have yet another extension of this executive authority that is reaching outside the bounds of what was once normal. And instead, tyranny globally is being normalized. Persecuting whistleblowers and those granted asylum is being normalized. And Steve, someone who is a friend of yours, someone who I've done a program or two with as well, with you, Commander X has basically been kidnapped and arrested. So for my audience, number one, Steve, tell people who you are and how you got into this through Action for Assange and that movement. And then who Commander X is and what's happened to him.
So, in case any of you don't know me, I'm Steve Poikinen. I host a show called Slow News Today. I also co-host Anonymous Bites Back and the Free Assange Vigil for about 100 weeks. I've been an activist in some way, shape, or form for, just shy of 30 years since I went to my first protest in Indianapolis, Indiana in 1992. I've been involved on the organizational and street activist level with Action for Assange for about 2 years now. In the process of that, I had the opportunity to interview and then become friends with one of the more notorious and legendary hacktivists from the anonymous heyday, Commander X, who was granted political asylum in Mexico in 2019. And we were able to give him one of his first interviews as an asylee. And then, because he's elderly, not in the best of health, in January of this year, I gave him what he thought was his last interview. He thought he was going to die in Mexico. Because there are some people who really care about him. Were able to get some help, some funds to him. He was in much better health. Had started live streaming again as Commander X about a month ago. A documentary came out about his story called The Face of Anonymous. Just Friday, and we're going to get into a lot of the other things around this too, and it really makes the saying "meet the new boss, same as the old boss" ring incredibly true, because the Obama-Biden era war on journalism and whistleblowers is right back where it left off, Jason. Friday, he was hanging out at his house, newly located at this place, had only been there about 5 weeks, 6 weeks. Two uniformed men flashed credentials at the neighborhoods in this particular Mexican state. Most of them are gated. It's not like super fancy kind of thing where they're, only letting you in if you have a Bentley, but, gated community, neighborhood, closed community. So the gate guard was shown credentials from a U.S. 3-letter agency. He went to those two men were let in, went to the house where X was staying. The landlady said, if you don't have a warrant, I can't help you. If you don't have paperwork, I can't help you. Kick rocks, So they left, came back in plain clothes. A third man with U.S. Embassy credentials was speaking to the gate guard while the two other men, now in plainclothes, hopped the wall into the community, broke into X's house while X was on the phone with his good friend, who's also a human rights attorney. Because the landlady had told him what was going on, it freaked him out. Obviously, it would freak anybody out. And they started screaming at him to identify himself in Mexican Spanish, not in English, in Mexican Spanish.
And just to be clear, when they first approached everybody as officials of three-letter agencies, obviously they were speaking English.
Yeah.
Okay, so
they addressed the gate guard in Spanish, addressed the landlady in Spanish and English, but fluent in English. But we're speaking the regional dialect of Spanish. Gotcha. I would imagine because that's how you would want to yell at somebody if you were breaking into their house. Is in a language that they would understand ostensibly.
Sure,
they may not have known who was there. Point being, they drag X out. I'd confiscate a number of his possessions. He's taken away by these two plainclothes agents now and a U.S. embassy official. Here's where it gets a little weird because we've got the Mexican government lying to the woman who helped take care of him and a human rights attorney about where X is. On Friday night at about 8:00, X was able to contact the human rights attorney and was like, this is messed up, but I'm going to be okay. They were told by Mexican immigration, Nat and Steph, the attorney, go file an injunction, come back on Monday. This is going to get sorted out. While they were being told that, X was being put in a U.S. vehicle and driven straight to the Santa Rita jail in Dublin, California, outside of Oakland in Alameda County.
So right now he is in a U.S. prison. This is significant because he was obviously granted asylum. They went into that country, what appears to be presenting false documentation, essentially kidnapped this man on behalf of the U.S. government, and now he's in jail. Before we get into anything further, for those that don't understand what hacktivism was going on during that Occupy era, during that Anon era, what are the things he was charged with that caused him to go take asylum?
So essentially what he's being charged with is direct disruption of service attack, a DDoS attack on a Santa Cruz County website. In 2011, Santa Cruz County, where I live now, and where I lived then, as a matter of fact, so I remember all of this happening in real time. Santa Cruz County was being particularly savage to their homeless. Still are, and in many ways, worse. But this is when we first started to see the spikes come out. The anti-homeless devices that cities would put up around their downtown areas to make it so that you did not have to see the fact that there might be poor people or people that were unhoused in your fair Christian community. There was a city ordinance at the time in Santa Cruz that you couldn't sit in one spot in downtown for more than an hour. Had to move. So there was a call to action that was put out on a message board over several thousand. I don't have an exact number of computers involved in it, but thousands of computers were involved in a mass DDoS attack on this particular Santa Cruz County website. Took it offline, demonstrated that people could come together to take a little bit of control over the digital space in what amounts to an online sit-in, a digital sit-in.
So what you're trying to tell me is this was actual digital, peaceful cyber warfare, almost akin to peaceful resistance, right? Non-compliance, real stuff, real hacktivism, and not some trumped up phony Russian scare that's shutting down the infrastructure of the United States currently. Is that what you're trying to tell me?
That's what I'm trying to tell you. They shut down a Santa Cruz County website to prove a point and to let them know that the treatment of the homeless was intolerable. It began a 30-day sleep-in where people from all over the country came to Santa Cruz to camp out in front of the courthouse and try and get a ticket.
Wow, so something that was effective. So again, folks, this is alarming on that level. Now, like you said, he's granted asylum. He's in Mexico. This sets almost at least a new public standard as to what our military-industrial complex apparatus can do in conjunction with possibly elements of the Mexican government. That's not clear right now, whether this is actually part of the Mexican government. I'm sure we're going to probably find some things out later on. But as far as you know, none of that has really been confirmed through the lawyer or the woman taking care of them, that these were actual government agents. And honestly, if they are, that's even more problematic if they're not some type of mercenary group privately working on behalf of the U.S. to take a bounty. I mean, because that also has to be a possibility. We have to throw it all out there, right, Steve?
Oh, 100%. I mean, the United States has been outsourcing its CIA-like activities for a number of years now. So there's been all the possibility in the world that this was contracted out. 100%. What is particularly worrying is that this has shades of what was done to Julian Assange when he had his citizenship from Ecuador and his asylum illegally revoked with zero due process by the Lenin Moreno government, by the Ecuadorian government. They were leaned on significantly by the United States, received significant both coercion in terms of threats and in terms of rewards, initially a $4.2 billion IMF loan. Since Biden got elected, he has been talking about wanting a better relationship with AMLO, trying to repair things with Mexico. The day that X was kidnapped and renditioned, Kamala Harris was meeting with AMLO. And again, this is right after the Biden administration announces their war on cyber criminals.
Which I watched, by the way, which was another huge joke. Actually, it was a moment of clarity for Joe. He didn't call himself a potato or anything like that, or fall over or stop for 6 minutes. He actually had this moment of clarity where he inverts reality, and he says the United States doesn't interfere with elections across the world. And all I can think about is John Perkins and Confessions of an Economic Hitman, and the fact that Biden, again, Joey B, before he was Zombie Joe. What do we call Zombie Joe when they got him all hyped up on the amphetamines and there's that moment of clarity? Was he like the head Zombie Joe, or is he like shades of Joey B? I don't know what to say. You know, he has those moments, Steve. They're few and far between, but they're there.
Franken Joe? I don't know, man. He's just got like a little jolt. Now the monsters come to life.
You know,
and you can go sniff the hair of all the children.
And that's the thing. It's not like even a monster, because when you watch, you know, I don't know if you saw my Brian Callen interviews, but in the very beginning.
Yeah, and hats off to you, man. I think you got him.
Thank you, man. Thank you. And again, that's that whole thing where, you know, these people aren't my enemy, and you bring people into this information with points of agreement first so that they can actually look at the information. But I think in the very beginning, it's very apparent, no matter what you believe, that Joe Biden was a very different person 20 years ago. You know, when I show him on the Senate floor, or I show him with Bryant Gumbel, everybody's always tries, well, he's always had a stutter. And I'm like, yeah, very few and far between. This isn't a stutter. Take a look at this guy. He's slick. He's been slick for a while. They know he's a company man. He's literally done everything the establishment has wanted for the military-industrial complex. So now he reads off a script, and he signs off what he needs to, and then NBC News interviews Vladimir Putin about cyber warfare, and he's sitting there chuckling his ass off going, are you going to show me some evidence, or are you going to just like keep calling me a bad dude? I don't know if you've seen that yet. I've watched about 40 minutes now of the 90-minute interview, and the talking points that the media is using for cyber warfare, another reason that this is all very important, and the reality behind it and its actual effectiveness are also at jeopardy here. Speak to that, Steve.
So, I mean, Anonymous from day one has jokingly referred to themselves as the final boss of the internet, right? And that if there's a threat to a free and open internet, or there's a threat to another member of Anonymous, they'll put aside any individual differences come together as a collective for what they perceive to be the better of the situation. Our ability to communicate in the digital space, in what has become, more or less a town square, has been compromised significantly over the last several years. With the last lockdown, with the whole COVID nonsense, you cannot say that we didn't treat the internet as our only available public gathering space. We were not allowed to gather in public together in person. When you siphon information, when you what do they call it? Filter, right? When they filter information, when there are people with agendas who are unelected, who are incentivized through either just a paycheck or coercion to manipulate what you and I get to see in the public square, to intentionally alter real time in order to drive a narrative and agenda. That's akin to, it should be 100% criminal. And where Anonymous comes in, or where Commander X would come in, where digital online activists would come in, would be the front line of resistance to that.
Yeah, absolutely. And, again, as we get more information, hopefully we'll be doing more stories. Everybody knows that I'm going to be on the road. But this is extremely problematic, and it almost dovetails into this international FBI Interpol sting where all these quote-unquote criminals, I've yet to see who was actually charged, who was actually arrested, thought they were using these ghost phones. I've actually made my first graphene OS pixel device right here, and it shows the pixels. And somehow it looks like they may have got them on the factory level or the refurbished level, I'm not sure. And they had a app installed in there called Amon, right? So while they're talking about these crimes and 27 million messages, whether it's text messages or voice messages or maybe even phone conversations, all went directly to these law enforcement apparatuses. And Steve, I've been highlighting this signature reduction program. Yep. It's absolutely 100% outside of the scope of the Constitution and Bill of Rights. There's been zero, let me say that again, zero oversight, okay, by any branch, whether it even be the executive, okay, certainly not the judicial. They've never ruled whether this is legal, right? And the executive, this is a part of the executive branch. I've always talked about the executive within the executive that is the true national security state. And then legislative, really, there should be laws against this, but instead, through lawfare, they've actually expanded their police state measures, largely through their false war on terror. Hence, this 20th anniversary of 9/11 is important. Hence is why I keep talking to people about it. Hence why the discussion with Brian Callen is important, because that builds the infrastructure and legitimacy for all this. All of it. Department of Homeland Security, into all these other pseudo agencies, into this. And I want to read this for people again because I cannot emphasize this first paragraph more. The largest undercover force the world has ever known is one of created by the Pentagon over the past decade. Some 60,000 people now belong to this secret army, many working under masked identities and in low profile, all part of a broad program called signature reduction, which they define as an art form, by the way. Yeah, that's right, an art form. Hey, how about this? Fuck off. The force, more than 10 times the size of the clandestine elements of the CIA, carries out domestic and foreign assignments, both in military uniforms and under civilian cover, in real life and online, sometimes hiding in private businesses and consultancies, some of them household name companies. You should shit yourself right now and wonder why this article will be out a month tomorrow and nobody's fucking talking about it. Nobody. And if you don't think this is the infrastructure to come get all you white supremacists and you MAGA cats, and even you leftists out there, you progressives that want a Medicare for all that actually empowers and doesn't enslave you by telling you need 5 boopity boops every year, they're coming for you. This is the infrastructure. You know, Steve, we talked about it when we had that first person drive into the Capitol, and it wasn't a white supremacist. What did they make him out to be? Whoa, he liked Louis Farrakhan. This black man like that guy. He's a black supremacist. He's anti-Semitic. Everybody is going to be labeled as some kind of a problem that goes against the status quo. And these are the tools they're using. And I am alarmed, again, that more people aren't covering this Commander X thing, that it will not even be questioned in the mainstream media whatsoever. And these are the tools they're using, Steve.
You're absolutely right. And I just checked. I pulled up our Rockfin feed when we covered this. And there were like 5 other people in the entire independent media landscape that covered it. You would think, Jason, that a story this significant, that a 60,000 strong secret army inside the United States, whose job it is to create entire fictitious lives of individuals so that they can manipulate outcomes in a way that benefits the state without any oversight, without any sort of transparency. That should have at least the media on edge, if not everyone else in the nation. We're supposed to look at our neighbor, Jason, like they're a disease vector or a terrorist. And yet we've got people whose job it is to create fake people in order to drive a narrative which is all too often one of division.
Not only division, total and complete falsehoods that cause genocide across the world. Dare I say it? Look, guys, I get it. You thought the war on terror, okay, and the drones were staying in the Middle East or maybe in Africa. They're not. They're for you too. And if you're not alarmed that a drone in Libya without any problem and any direction from a human being, just its encoding, decided tourist, said that's a terrorist, I'm getting it and I'm killing it. If you don't think that can come here, you're not paying attention. You are the terrorist. You are the terrorist. You are the terrorist. They told you about weapons of mass destruction. A lie. They told you about chemical attacks in Duma. A lie. They told you that Assange was a Russian agent. A lie. All lies. Why trust any of these people? Any of them, especially on these issues. Listen, you got to have discernment. And again, when you have a media narrative which is driven by a military-industrial complex narrative that has been dismantled over the last 20 years, why would you believe anything out of their mouth, Steve?
Well, you would either have to be paid to, or you would have to be so cult-like in your thinking. So driven by the need to, I don't know, own the other side, that you ignore 100% of the reality in front of you and just try to reshape it in order to fit into the predetermined worldview that your party told you needed to have.
And that's another thing. If you're still identifying with parties and left and right, and you think that somehow, some way, voting Republican or voting Democrat or getting your progressive in there or your alt-right hero in there is going to do anything at this point, I'm sorry. It's up to you. You need to take local action. You know, I did a whole video with Todd McGreevy yesterday from the Quad City Reader, the River City Reader from here in the Quad Cities. And I don't know if you've seen the video of my friend Matt and being at the county board, but it's going to take you guys at a local level to dismantle this whole thing. You know, we can't just sit back on our keyboards and we can't just hashtag free Commander X. First of all, we need to get this story out there, one, and we need to stop this behavior here in the United States and expose it and say it is completely unacceptable at what's happening. So, Steve, why don't you tell people, number one, how they can support Commander X right now, number two, where they can follow this story as it develops, and number three, what they can do to get this information out there. And I know that you're doing a tour right now across the country, and there's events everywhere on behalf of Assange, which is also another extremely important issue.
So right now, at least on Twitter, and we're going to make a few more accounts. I think there's one on Facebook right now, but it's Free Commander X. On Twitter, it's Free Commander X with an underscore. That is going to be the sole place for accurate updates on this. The people that are running the account are in contact with the folks that are trying to represent X, the legal team with X's family. They're the only account that we've seen that is going to put out accurate information the moment it comes in. Commander X made a lot of enemies and was a polarizing figure even inside the Anon community. So there are people who are doing cartwheels and backflips over the fact that the FBI or the United States government, whatever agency it was, the FBI had the warrants out forever. So it's coming back to, it's the most convenient 3-letter agency to fall back on. Mm-hmm. But went so far over the line as to apparently coerce the Mexican government into violating political asylum in much the way that Assange's political asylum was violated, and kidnapped an ailing man in poor health to go prove a point about cybercrime from back in the Obama presidency when Biden was walking around going, Julian Assange is a high-tech terrorist.
Jesus.
Right, when Mitch McConnell went, Julian Assange is a high... same exact sentence when Hillary Clinton was threatening to drone strike the man. I do want to bring up something real quick. The day X was kidnapped, another Anon and conservative blogger, Marty G. I got his last name. But Marty G, the Free Marty G account over on the tweeters. This is a guy who helped save a 15-year-old's life and had his life ruined for it. His defense fundraiser was taken down, almost at the same time X was kidnapped. 2 days after that, Barrett Brown, the founder of Project PM, another very high-profile figure in the hacktivist, information activist, and anonymous sphere, was applying for asylum in England. He got brand new sealed charges that go back to the Obama-Biden era. Mm-hmm. At the same time, DDoS Secrets, Emmy Best's website, and a bunch of the other NatSec white, kind of like white hackers. Those guys, their servers got raided again, and taken again. The Twitter account got banned, and it looks like there might be indictments coming out after those guys. This is really a just ramped up resurgence with a vengeance, an actual revenge-driven motive on the part of the Biden administration for what appears to be their perceived failures in rounding up every information activist they could in the wake of Occupy and the Arab Spring hacks.
Well, I think it's going to be even more than that. I think that right now what they're doing is they're making these arrests to legitimize what they're going to roll out on the rest of us and the propaganda of whatever next cyber attack comes out. We got a lot of these hackers, but boy, they're mad we're getting their friends, and then all of a sudden they shut down this infrastructure. It's the perfect narrative for a cyber polygon type operation while quelching free speech and rounding dissidents up. So it's more than problematic. We have to shine the light on it. Steve, how can people support you? Where are you at? Obviously, they can follow you on Twitter at Slow News Day Show. You're over on Rockfin. You're still somehow on YouTube, like myself. So what's next, and how can people support you that way?
So next week, in 7 days from today, I will be in Denver, Colorado, kicking off the West Coast leg of the Home Run for Julian tour. John and Gabriel Shipton, Julian's father and brother, have been in the United States since the beginning of the month. They're doing a nationwide tour to raise awareness. I'll be joining up with that tour in Denver, going to Portland, San Francisco, LA, and then the final stop in DC on July 1st. July 3rd and 4th, I'll be in Los Angeles. Julian Assange is 50 on July 3rd, so we're holding an International Day of Action around that. I'm going to be filming a documentary while I'm on the road, and I'll be releasing that sometime this fall. Really, the best way to support the show and to support me is on the Rockfin, rockfin.com/slownewsday. There is I just took that GoFundMe down. Never mind. Let's see. SlowNewsDayShow.com. It's the website. It's got all of our videos, got the full archive of the Free Assange vigils. We're also live streaming on the Odyssey now, which is kind of cool. Let the people over there get an opportunity to catch the show live. And I'm on Aftermath FM now.
Oh, wow.
Which is carried on iHeartRadio. So every Sunday, the regular Slow News Day show goes out on Aftermath and iHeart. Which is weird. I can't believe that they haven't taken the show off the air yet. I opened it with Whitney Webb, had Ty Clevenger on the next week, had you guys on for that panel. And we're still doing it, so we're going to keep at it.
Excelente, Steve. We'll be in touch, and thank you for all you're doing. And again, please support this man. Check out Slow News Day, Action for Assange, and more. We'll talk soon, Steve.
All right, brother. Take care.
So you can support me, guys, by thumbing this video up, subscribing, and sharing. Not even 100 thumbs up on this one, guys. Come on. Do me a little bit of a favor, huh? Push it. All my documentary films, they're free right here. Shade the Motion Picture, Invisible Empire, A New World Order Defined, Fabled Enemies, and Loose Change Final Cut. Make the free account. Make that free account. I made that free, huh? Yeah, there's a free exclusive throwback from 2008, Student Scholars for 9/11 Truth, and G. Edward Griffin interview from 13 years ago. So that's up there for free. We got the Nico House interview if you are a subscriber. But we also have the uncensored versions of How to Take Back Your Local Government with Todd McGreevy. I should write uncensored on that. And uncensored Mixed Martial Mindset. And uncensored with Harrison Smith. So if you're just watching those videos on YouTube, you're missing out. If you do have a premium subscription, both my appearances, okay, of myself on the Conspiracy Social Club are fully available there. Pieces otherwise are available elsewhere. Odyssey's also backed me up. We've got the link down below for the GoFundMe. Guys, without you, I couldn't do it. I love you, and I'll see you on the flip.